Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I saw this a few days ago. It is ESPN. They released their initial 2023 preseason analytical SP Plus rankings. So, they've accounted for all the transfers within the first portal. I believe we have another portal window coming up with college football, but this is just a good gauge on where we are right now. I'm just going to be reacting to it, having some fun here. Looking at 25, they've got Wisconsin. So I'm really high on Wisconsin. They're going to have a few big games. Luke Fickell, the aggressiveness, Wisconsin in the transfer portal, the Big Ten West being as bad as it is. I could see Wisconsin having a really good season. I also expect Illinois to come way back down to earth. I think Illinois might have a losing record next year. So Wisconsin, I'm going to say a top 20 team possibly. The game, we're really looking at Ohio State at Wisconsin. I believe sometime middle of next season. Going to be a really good one there. Probably going to be a night game. Kentucky at number 24. I know they do have a very good young receiver, Baron Brown. The main issue for them, losing Will Levis and really kind of having a letdown season last year with Will Levis dealing with a lot of injuries to that offense overall. But Kentucky comes in at 24. They do a real good job of recruiting Ohio and getting the kids that Ohio State kind of passes up on. Mississippi State at 23, so they return Will Rogers, who is just, what is he going to set? Every single record? I read something with Will Rogers. Apparently, because of the pandemic year, technically he can come back next year as well, with this year and next year. So he has 2 years of eligibility left, and he's going to need Tommy John surgery like Brock Purdy. I mean, he throws 5,000 passes a game, so we will see if he ends up setting records, but that's respectable. You can put them at 23. He's a good quarterback. Kansas State down to 22. Yeah, Kansas State, they had a great season. Deuce Vaughn is gone. The game against Alabama, that was a real wake-up call there. Just, not talented enough. And the problem is they're in a conference that is so congested. There's really no easy games. So just like Kansas State could go 10-2, they very well could also go 7-5, and it's just not much of a difference because that conference is so compact, the Big 12 is, and I would think it would be next year, with a number of teams returning players. UCLA at 21, so, UCLA got a transfer portal QB from the MAC, who's kind of a dual threat, and they also got Dante Moore, who they gave reportedly a massive NIL deal to. Dante Moore, a top 5 overall recruit. I'm guessing Dante Moore will be starting. They also got a really good transfer portal running back as well. So Chip Kelly, UCLA, making big moves this past season. Big surprise. They were inside of the top 15 throughout most of the year. They're at 21. Florida's at 20. They just ridiculously underperformed last year with Anthony Richardson. And then Anthony Richardson, it seems like he didn't even develop, and then he leaves for the NFL. I mean, that's got to be one of the most annoying things. It's like you're trying to develop a quarterback. He doesn't develop, but he still is going to be a first-round pick. So it's like, how do you win if you're a college program? Florida, they got Graham Mertz, the transfer from Wisconsin. This seems a little high for them, but they are very talented. They always seem to underperform, at least recently. TCU at number 19. So, yeah, I mean, the last time we saw TCU, man, oh my goodness. It's like TCU won in the flukiest fashion possible against Michigan. And then, I mean, listen, you can't. What was the final score? 63-7? That just can't happen. Not in a national championship. But yeah, TCU is losing so much. Quentin Johnston's going to be probably a top 15 pick. Duggan, they're also losing. He said he was going to the NFL. I think he had 1 year left with the pandemic year, but he's not using it. So yeah, TCU in that conference, they could very easily lose 4 games. Ole Miss at number 18, so Jackson Dart is back. I know they also got a few really good transfer portal receivers, so Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, they're always going to have a good offense. It's just like if I'm an Ole Miss fan, it's hard for me to really get excited about the future if Lane Kiffin is going to do this thing where he's constantly talking about, or rumored to be leaving. It's just annoying. Texas A&M at number 17. You know, I warned people last year about A&M. I said, listen, yes, they just signed the best recruiting class in history, but they're all true freshmen. It's very hard for true freshmen to, when it comes to college football, to make a significant impact. They still have to develop. They still have to grow. They're very small. And Texas A&M had a real letdown year. They lose to Appalachian State. They don't even make a bowl game. They should be better. They've got a young quarterback, former 5-star, who has some experience and, still very talented, even though they did lose a lot to the portal. They also retained a lot. So that's a very talented, high upside team, Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher really needs to have a good season, like minimum 8 or 9 wins, minimum. Washington at number 16. I recently did a way too early 2024 NFL mock draft, and it had 3 Washington players inside of the top 15, 2 edge rushers and a receiver, and that's not including Jalen McMillan. So this is a very talented Washington team. Going to be fun to see them. Also returning, Michael Penix, the college football passing leader in terms of total yardage in 2022. Yeah, the Pac-12 really, really going to be good this year. Notre Dame at number 15, I would probably have them a bit higher. I would put them at 12 or 13 minimum. You're losing Michael Mayer, but the defense should be better. Marcus Freeman, I am buying in. I think he's a really good fit for Notre Dame, that young, up-and-coming, defensive-minded coach. And they also show a willingness to make an adjustment, go out, get Sam Hartman, who set multiple records in ACC play, veteran quarterback. They've got that huge, a week 3 home game versus Ohio State. The Buckeyes probably going to be top 5. Notre Dame, I would say initially, when you look at the AP poll, possibly a top 10 or top 12 team. These analytics have them at 15. Oklahoma at 14. I certainly think Oklahoma is going to have a bounce back year. Is Dylan Gabriel returning for Oklahoma? Because they do have Jackson Arnold, the 5-star quarterback, but he's a true freshman. I think Dylan Gabriel is back. Oklahoma's going to be really good next year, guys. People are going to be surprised. How are they 14? Brett Venables, they went 6-7. You remember that bowl game they played against FSU? They almost beat FSU, and they played them evenly. And that's a really good FSU team with Jordan Travis. At number 13, Utah. Utah, they're losing a lot. Clark Phillips, Kincaid, the tight end. But you return Cam Rising. They've had a really good run with Kyle Whittingham. My question with Utah is, do they have enough talent in a very hard Pac-12 where you've got multiple teams returning quarterbacks like Washington, Oregon? It's going to be tough for Utah, but they do deserve a top 15 ranking based on how consistent they've been recently. At number 12, it's Clemson. So Clemson had a real letdown bowl game there. Just weird. I think they scored 7 points or something like that, and they had 500 yards of total offense. They just could not get the ball in the end zone. But Cade Klubnik, the 5-star quarterback, he's going to be really good. Will Shipley, the running back. Clemson, their defense is always good. So, this is it's really interesting. It's like Clemson is teetering right now on being an elite team in college football. You look at Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, we think Clemson's included in that, but the past 2 years, they've been pretty much out of the playoff picture after the first 5 weeks. They need a bounce back year, and I think they can have it with a young superstar quarterback, and they always have a solid defense. And you talk about, Dabo Swinney, people criticizing him. He goes out and he gets the offensive coordinator from TCU that everyone wanted. Florida State at number 11. A lot of people have FSU inside their top 10, inside their top 8. I've seen FSU as high as number 4. The craziness. They return everyone. Jared Verse, he was going to be a first round, maybe top 15 pick. He returns. Jordan Travis, a possible Heisman hopeful, really developing as a good quarterback, his final year with FSU. This is really it for FSU. They need to, make the playoffs, or at minimum for FSU, a New Year's Six Bowl, minimum. Other than that, I think it's a letdown season with everything they're returning. USC at number 10. So they get Caleb Williams back. They're going to need the former number 1 overall recruit, Corey Foreman, to step up. For USC, I think a lot of people skeptical. We know they're going to have a great offense even without Jordan Addison. Maybe Mario Williams, the transfer from Oklahoma, steps up into that number 1 role. But either way, USC is going to have a great offense. The question is Alex Grinch and that defense stepping up. They were one game away from making the playoffs and had an absolute meltdown against Utah. Texas at number 9. So, last year it was a massive difference in between the analytics on Texas and the actual win-loss record. Would they have 5 or 6 losses and they were inside the top 10? That's because they had a lot of close, unlucky losses. Quinn Ewers trying to develop into a top 10 NFL pick. He's a former number 1 overall recruit. It's important to note, everyone's going to talk about Texas losing Bijan Robinson, but they returned basically everyone else outside of Bijan Robinson. And we all know running backs, they do matter, but it's kind of, it's a situation where I think Texas, they're going to be really good next year. They lost a lot of close games. I could very easily see them winning 10 games, going 10-2 and possibly making a New Year's 6 game. Oregon at number 8. They return Bo Nix. The Nike money does it. It's a massive coup for them. Bo Nix was probably going to be a second-round pick. He was a Heisman hopeful. He got injured late in the season. But Oregon, very, very good. They're getting some significant talent on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a defensive-minded head coach. They are building something. It's a tough Pac-12, but certainly Oregon, initial preseason top 10, that's very healthy for your program. LSU at number 7, returning Jayden Daniels, veteran presence, played really well towards the end of last season. The Alabama win, and you've got Harold Perkins, the superstar, rangy linebacker / edge rusher, really, really unbelievable defensive player. LSU always has a ton of talent. The question with them is it's a very tough conference. You're facing Alabama every year, so it is not easy. Tennessee at number 6. So this is kind of the surprise, I would say. With Tennessee, with Hendon Hooker gone, with Jalen Hyatt gone, I would have them outside of my top 10 for sure. They're a program that had one great year, but I'm going to need you to prove it again with a different group of skill position players before I really trust you as a top 6 or top 7 program. So I would have them outside of my top 10, but they did have a great year last year. They've got a very young, innovative, offensive-minded head coach. Penn State at number 5. Penn State football is returning everyone except, Joey Porter Jr. is gone. They're losing Brown, the safety, but they're returning everyone. Sean Clifford probably, I didn't dislike Sean Clifford, but he was a game manager. That's what he was. Now you've got the 5-star quarterback who has been drawing comparisons to Josh Allen. We will see with Penn State. It's going to come down to Michigan. It's going to come down to Ohio State. Penn State is on the road in Columbus. They get Michigan at home. Probably going to be their whiteout game. So Penn State, really good year last year. They finish off winning that Rose Bowl. There, Alabama at number 4, replacing a lot. Replacing Will Anderson. Replacing Bryce Young. The receiver question mark. No one stepped up last year. Who's going to step up this year? I would say Ty Simpson probably going to be Bama's starting quarterback, but we know. Alabama in terms of recruiting, it might not be this year, but Alabama has so many top 100 players. It's just so deep. It's almost like, I don't know, it's a wall. It's like they have an army of top 100 players. Like, their recruiting classes, especially the last 2, the amount of talent that's going to be influxed into their roster within the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe this is a year, that transition year, another team can take advantage of that in the SEC. I know they lost last year, which was surprising with Bryce Young, returning. But Alabama's going to be crazy. This may be the last year to get them. Michigan at number 3. How about Blake Corum returning? The NIL thing there. J.J. McCarthy also back. Donovan Edwards back as well. They are behind Ohio State. I will probably, I'll explain why that is. It's all analytical. It's all based on overall roster talent. But Michigan, I would say they're hosting Ohio State at this point when the preseason line comes out. They're probably going to be, 4-point favorite? I don't know. I'm just guessing, but they're probably going to be small favorites over Ohio State. They were 10-point underdogs the past 2 years. It didn't matter, but they are at number 3, and Ohio State is still in front of Michigan. This is mainly due to Ohio State's 2021 recruiting class, which was just ridiculous. All of those kids are now juniors. You've got JTT, Jack Sawyer, and then Trevion Henderson, Kyle McCord, probably going to be the starting quarterback. If there's anything we know about Ryan Day, certainly Ohio State, Kyle McCord should be a Heisman contender. That's kind of the expectation with how Ryan Day develops quarterbacks. I did see something. I'm going to assume it's maybe an April Fool's joke. I saw something that Parker Fleming got an extension. I think that's an April Fool's joke, but he's the special teams coach. Ohio State had horrible special teams this past year, but they're at number 2. We'll see. Just a very unfortunate year losing to Michigan, and then the Georgia debacle with the Marvin Harrison Jr. hit and all of that crap. At number 1, Georgia, not surprising. It looks like, I'm guessing Carson Beck is going to be their starting quarterback, but I'm sure there's going to be some form of offseason battle. But yeah, Georgia, the one thing, that I notice most about Georgia is their defensive depth. Just they out-athlete you on defense. They've got so many great athletes. And you take a look at the past 3 or 4 years in terms of recruiting, it's really Alabama, Georgia. They've separated themselves. When we're talking about overall roster talent, Alabama and Georgia are going to have so many more, they're so much deeper than like an Ohio State. Even though Ohio State's talented, recently their classes have been really lacking depth on the defensive side. So Georgia, it's elite player after elite player, athleticism, defense, that team defense. No one singular player for Georgia is going to have a crazy year. It's like Trayvon Walker going number 1 overall, having, 6 sacks. Jalen Carter possibly going top 5, having 3 sacks. They overwhelm you with team defense. So Georgia, rightfully so. I mean, back-to-back, you can't put them anywhere but number 1, even losing Stetson Bennett. So that is just kind of the overall breakdown on ESPN's preseason top 25. I'm sure they'll update this after the next window of the transfer portal, which probably is sometime early in the summer, maybe in May, right after the draft. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.